Can the food you eat give you a brain boost? Let's talk about that. How's it going, guys? My name's Richie Kirwan, and today we're going to talk about protecting one of the most important organs in your body. And before your imagination runs away with you, we're talking about your brain. We'll talk about why brain health matters, if that wasn't already pretty obvious, and we'll talk about some specific nutrients that might be really important for keeping your brain in top condition. We'll also talk about one particular supplement that you might be surprised is especially good for your brain health. At the end of this video, you should have a much better understanding of how the food you eat affects that supercomputer in your head. So let's get started. So this might come as a bit of a surprise to many, but dementia, which is a term used to describe a group of symptoms affecting memory, thinking, and social abilities, and Alzheimer's are the leading cause of death in the UK. That's pretty amazing considering heart disease has been the leading cause of death for decades. But dementia and heart disease may actually share a couple of traits that we'll get into later. And just in case death isn't scary enough, maybe the thought of not being able to remember who you or your family and friends are in later life is enough to make you realize how important brain health really is. So, that said, what can you eat to keep that big, wrinkly mass of grey matter in tip-top condition? Let's start off with probably one of the most well-known foods for brain health, and that's long-chain omega-3 fatty acids, which are found in good old fish oils. So your brain consists of over 60% fat, with a massive proportion of that being made up of essential fatty acids. And one fatty acid in particular, docosahexaenonic acid, or DHA, makes up the majority of those omega-3 fats. Now, for a single fatty acid to form such a major proportion of our brain gives a hint that it might play a pretty important role in brain health. And we now know that it plays a massive role in brain development, especially when babies are growing in the womb. Now, you may also have heard of another fatty acid called eicosapentaenoic acid, or EPA. It's also found in fish oil and has been shown in some studies to help improve some symptoms of depression and low mood. But as we're talking mostly about cognitive function here, we'll leave that topic for another video. Now, back to DHA. And like I mentioned, it's essential for proper brain development and function before we're even born. We know from population studies that people who get more DHA in their diet from fish have a lower risk of declining brain function as they age. But if we want to know if supplements can help with brain function, we need to look at intervention studies. These are experiments where we give a specific group of people a specific supplement in order to see if it has a specific effect. So in one such study in older people with mild cognitive decline, high doses of DHA specifically, and around 2 grams per day, helped to reduce the brain shrinkage that normally occurs with advanced aging. There's even some evidence to suggest that fish oil supplements in general might be able to help improve memory function in older adults too. However, as with a lot of research, we don't have enough evidence to say that DHA will reduce brain shrinkage and improve cognitive function conclusively. That said, because fish oils in general seem to have a number of other beneficial effects, such as helping control inflammation, improved recovery from exercise, and lowering triglyceride levels, it might not hurt to include them in your diet anyway. So consider eating oily fish like salmon, mackerel, sardines, or trout more regularly, or take a high-strength fish oil supplement. And if you're vegan or vegetarian, you can also get EPA and DHA from algal oil supplements. Now, the next nutrient or group of nutrients I want to mention are polyphenols. You've probably heard that word before without being sure what it is, but polyphenols are a very diverse group of plant chemicals that seem to play a major role in human health. Phytonutrients can be found in a really wide variety of plant foods, such as green leafy vegetables, dark chocolate, red wine, berries, coffee, and tea. One of the ways we think polyphenols work is by increasing the body's own antioxidant defense systems and controlling free radicals and inflammation that are produced as a part of our normal metabolism. Some polyphenols also help improve the endothelial function of our blood vessels, which can improve blood flow in different parts of the body. And considering blood flow is also essential in the brain, that might be one way polyphenols improve cognitive function. And we'll mention that a little more in a moment. Again, just like most nutrition research, the first indications that polyphenols might help with cognitive function came from population studies, where we look at what people eat and how their health changes over the years. People with higher polyphenol intakes from food seem to have slower rates of brain aging and cognitive decline. Now, to back that up, some intervention studies have shown similar results. Remember, when intervention studies and other mechanistic studies back up what's seen in population studies, it's a good indication that a certain nutrient is beneficial or otherwise. So for example, in one experiment, they gave a group of older adults a blueberry concentrate drink with 387 milligrams of anthocyanidins, which are a type of polyphenol. And they gave a control group a placebo with the same calorie content. After 12 weeks, the blueberry group showed improved memory recall, and the researchers also used MRI, or magnetic resonance imaging, to observe that the blueberry group had greater activation of certain brain areas and improved brain perfusion, or blood flow. So not only did it show a benefit in terms of an outcome, memory in this case, but it also gave some evidence as to how it might work too, and that is by increasing blood flow to the brain. Another similar study using wild blueberry powder for 6 months in older adults with mild cognitive problems showed that the blueberry group had improved cognitive processing speed compared to the control group, and even restored their processing speed to a normal reference level. But it's not just in older people. High polyphenol foods have been shown to improve cognitive function in children and young adults too. And while I've mentioned blueberries a lot here, there is research showing improvements in cognition and brain function with other high polyphenol foods like green leafy vegetables, strawberries, dark chocolate, orange juice, green tea, and good old coffee. All in all, there seems to be plenty of research indicating that cognitive health can be improved by getting more fruit and veg into your diet. And it's possibly due to all the polyphenols and the other nutrients that they contain. Generally, the more deeply colored a fruit or vegetable is, the higher it is likely to be in polyphenols. And the more different colors you eat, the wider the variety of polyphenols you get, which is why you often hear people recommending to eat the rainbow. Oh, and don't forget your tea and coffee, which are the main sources of polyphenols for most people around the world. Now, I mentioned earlier that heart disease and dementia actually share something in common, so I want to talk about that. Interestingly, there is quite a lot of evidence from population studies that shows a link between high levels of LDL cholesterol and total cholesterol with the development of certain brain conditions like cognitive decline, dementia, and Alzheimer's disease. This link has even been confirmed by Mendelian randomization studies, which use data from population studies, where we have genetic information on the participants, to create the equivalent of a giant randomized control trial. These have shown that low LDL cholesterol may actually help lower the risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. Also, interestingly, these studies tend to show that it's cholesterol levels in midlife and not old age that matter. And this makes sense because we know high levels of cholesterol in the blood take many years or even decades to cause the buildup of plaques in our blood vessels, and this can potentially happen in the brain. That's why high levels of cholesterol throughout our life might gradually cause damage to our blood vessels, leading to issues with brain function. Interestingly, one of the most common groups of drugs used to treat high cholesterol, statins, have even been shown to reduce the risk of developing dementia when used early enough and for long enough. So it's possible that lowering high cholesterol via diet might be useful to help take care of your brain health long term. Now, I've done a video on cholesterol, which we'll link to here, so please check that out. But in terms of diet, some of the best things you can do to lower your total and LDL cholesterol are: replace saturated fat from sources like fatty meat, full-fat dairy, and coconut or palm oil with unsaturated sources like nuts, seeds, avocados, and olive oil. Keeping total saturated fat below 10% of your total calories seems to be a good target. Increase your fiber intake, especially soluble fiber from foods like beans, peas, lentils, whole grains like oats and barley, and plenty of fruit and vegetables. Reduce excess body fat and maintain a healthy body weight by not eating excess calories, especially excess calories from saturated fats and refined carbohydrates and sugars. And remember, you don't need to give up animal products like meat and dairy entirely. Just choose the lower fat versions to help keep your total saturated fat low. As for eggs and other foods that contain high levels of cholesterol naturally, in general, the cholesterol we eat doesn't affect our blood cholesterol levels, but approximately 1/3 of people are called cholesterol hyperresponders, which means yes, dietary cholesterol does increase their blood cholesterol. So if you have trouble lowering your blood cholesterol and you eat a lot of eggs or prawns, for example, which are really high in cholesterol, it might be worth eliminating them for a month and retesting to see if that helps bring your cholesterol levels down. Now, besides specific foods and nutrients, it's worth pointing out that entire dietary patterns may have a benefit on brain health too. If you think about what we've mentioned here already, lower saturated fat, vascular function, long-chain omega-3s, and lots of polyphenols, one dietary pattern that ticks all of these boxes is the Mediterranean diet. The Mediterranean diet is full of polyphenols, loaded with fibre, low in saturated fat, high in unsaturated fat, including long-chain omega-3s, and has plenty of evidence showing it can reduce blood cholesterol levels and improve vascular function. On top of that, there is plenty of research that shows that Mediterranean-style diets, or diets like it, such as the DASH diet, which was designed to reduce blood pressure, are associated with better cognitive function and a lower risk of dementia. On top of that, a recent trial in Finland called the Finnish Geriatric Intervention Study to Prevent Cognitive Impairment and Disability, or FINGER trial, which used Nordic-style diet recommendations, which are very similar to a Mediterranean-style diet, found that after 2 years, cognitive performance in the intervention group was better and their risk of cognitive decline was lower. In fact, the difference between the groups was evident in all studied cognitive domains, which were executive function, processing speed, and complex memory tasks. The FINGER trial wasn't just diet though. It also included exercise and cognitive training, which goes to show that there is much more to brain health than just food. Getting plenty of exercise, maintaining healthy blood pressure, staying insulin sensitive, staying mentally active by using your brain regularly and being socially active, and getting sufficient sleep are all incredibly important for maintaining the health of your brain as you age. But if you care about your health in general, you should be taking care of those anyway, right? Now, just before we finish up, I said I'd mention a surprising supplement for brain health. Some of you might already know this, but many don't know that creatine can be very beneficial for your brain's function. Yes, that supplement that is so good for your gym performance can also improve your brain performance. You see, your brain is a very metabolically active organ, just like your muscles. And your brain can also use creatine, just like your muscles, to help supply large amounts of energy when it's particularly active. Also, as we age, our brain creatine levels tend to get lower, making supplementing with creatine even more important. But it's not just in older adults. It also seems to show improvements in things like short-term memory in young adults too. And creatine may be especially beneficial for vegetarians and vegans who have lower levels of creatine in their brains than meat eaters. As for the optimal dose for cognitive function, we still don't have enough evidence for that, but taking the recommended 5 grams a day, which is the amount used for muscular power improvements, is what has been used in a lot of the research to date. I've also got a load of other videos answering some of the most common questions about creatine, so be sure to go back and check those out too. I really hope you've learned something about how the food you eat and the supplements you take can benefit your brain health in the long term. As always, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below, and remember to like and subscribe to the Myprotein YouTube channel for more great evidence-based nutrition information.